Well, good morning, Patriots. Good morning. Welcome to the 372nd consecutive Friday Assembly of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots. Thanks to each of you. Thanks to each of you for joining us this morning and demonstrating your support for America's deployed warfighters. Do we have any folks present this morning who enlisted in the armed forces at age 19? Let me see your hands. If you were 19 when you were enlisted, hey, we've got a few. Well, a while back, a performer by the name of Taylor Hicks delivered a ballad titled 19. It's a powerful tribute that honors young American service members, and it tells the story of a young football star who puts his personal dreams aside to join the military following the September 11 attacks. And the song highlights the themes of sacrifice, courage, and ultimate duty. The ballad was written by Tom Hambridge, Gary Nicholson, and Jeffrey Steele, and it delivers a message of gratitude and reflection. It serves as a reminder of the steep cost of freedom, bringing attention to the young men and women who leave their hometowns to defend their country. Let's listen to Taylor Hicks' ballad, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce a few first-time guests that we have with us this morning. Brian Hood. Will you stand, Brian? Brian is a United States Air Force veteran. He served in the years of 1978 to 1992. So were you retired from the Air Force?
No, sir.
But you put a lot of years in.
Well, they were trying to get rid of me back then, so they said, hey, if you'll leave early, we'll pay you like you were retired.
Good for you.
The bonus to get out was higher than the bonus to stay in.
You were a United States Air Force pilot.
Yes, sir.
And what type of aircraft did you fly?
A-10s and F-16s.
You had some wicked machines.
Yes, sir.
Superb. What brought you here?
I was at the drop zone, Andy Biggs throws down at Gilbert.
Superb.
Saw the card there and decided to come see.
Are you saying that you saw the Red Friday booth there and you decided to come see?
Yes, sir.
Hey, it paid off, right?
Yep, it sure did.
Once anyway, right?
We got a U.S. Air Force pilot in here. All right. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Appreciate you. Also, we have Elvis Bray. Elvis is a old service helicopter crew chief, Vietnam veteran, and served 1967 to 1970. Elvis, I know that you're pretty well connected here in the Valley as it pertains to various veteran initiatives, and you're also connected to a couple of folks that are Medal of Honor winners, and one that may become a Medal of Honor winner at some time.
That is correct.
We are so glad to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you'll return, my friend. Thank you. Also, we have Joy Baker here with us this morning, and Joy is a guest of Phil Todd. You live near Phil?
Nope.
LPG.
You're in LPG? How did you know Phil Todd?
I met him at a meeting.
You met him at a meeting? He goes to a lot of meetings. He's a pretty well connected guy over here in the East Valley. If he's there, you will not be able to avoid him. So that was through the invite that he said, hey, you need to get out here and check out Red Friday. we owe him a gold star then for recruiting, wouldn't you think?
I think so.
Joy, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Hope you come back and see us. May I have a hoo-ah for these guests? Thank you, thank you. You know, if you're familiar with the history of Social Security Administration, you'll recall that benefits officially became claimable beginning in January 1940 for those folks that were 65 years of age or older. Well, my paternal grandfather, Ed Nations, who lived his entire life in East Texas, was born in February 1869. So when Social Security became available in 1940, he was already 71 years of age. So with the newly launched program underway, Grandpa Ed decided to apply for Social Security, and one morning he got all dressed up in his Sunday go-to-meeting garb, and he grabbed a folder with all of his important documents, and he proudly headed down to the Social Security office in the little town of Hemphill, Texas. And when he reached the front desk, he was met by a clerk who smiled very politely, and she asked to see a photo ID. Well, Grandpa Ed reached into his coat pocket, no ID. Then the other coat pocket, no ID. Then he reached into his front and his back pants pockets and even into the watch pockets on his vest, no ID. He said, "Ma'am, this is embarrassing, but I left my ID at home." And the clerk smiled and she said, "No problem, Mr. Nations. Just unbutton your shirt for a second." Well, Grandpa Ed looked at her rather strange and confused, and he said, "You want me to unbutton my shirt?" She said, "Yes, sir, just unbutton your shirt." So Grandpa Ed unbuttoned the shirt, and the clerk sits there laughing. She noticed this thick silver chest hair. She said, "Well, sir, that's all the proof that I need. Anyone with that much silver chest hair has definitely earned Social Security benefits." Then she went about finishing the processing of his application without asking another word. Well, Grandpa Ed simply couldn't believe it, and he went home and he was grinning from ear to ear. And as soon as he walked through the front door, he excitedly told Grandma Emma the whole story from beginning to end. He finished by saying, "Emma, can you believe it? All I had to do was show the clerk my gray chest hair, and she approved everything for Social Security." Grandma Emma started laughing almost uncontrollably, and she said, "Well, Ed, if you would have dropped your pants, they would have probably approved your disability benefits too." Today, I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our guest speaker, a gentleman that some of you may recognize from an appearance here last year as a member of the Sons of the American Revolution State Color Guard. In addition to his participation in SAR State Color Guard, he also serves as the captain of the Barry M. Goldwater Sons of the American Revolution Chapter Color Guard in Scottsdale. Mark Seifert has been a member of the National Society Sons of the American Revolution since 2019, and he's currently the Public Affairs Officer for the Arizona State SAR and serves as chair of the 250th Communications Committee. Mark has 7 ancestors who served during the American Revolution which prompted him to become an avid historian and storyteller. As a matter of fact, Mark's persona and the attire you will see him wearing today are based on his patriot ancestor, Edward Gray III, who was a colonial tavern keeper and captain in the Massachusetts militia. Mark received a Bachelor of Arts degree from Uppsala College, East Orange, New Jersey, and a Master of Business Administration from Clark University, Worcester, Massachusetts. He has also taught and led a seminar at the MIT SDM program, Cambridge, Massachusetts. And Mark is retired. He previously served as the managing partner of Waggle Dance Marketing Research, a global consumer insights consultancy for consumer products. Prior to that, Mark had many years of experience in senior level marketing positions on the client side, as well as senior executive positions in New York advertising agencies. He served as the Senior VP of Marketing and Advertising at PetSmart. So, taking that into consideration, he held 3 executive positions at Kraft Foods: Group Product Manager of New Products, Director of Marketing, Director of Strategic Planning, Mergers and Acquisitions. He served as an executive advertising agency account management in New York for several major advertising agencies, where he won 2 Effie Awards for advertising expertise. Mark is no stranger to the armed forces. He served as a first lieutenant in the Massachusetts Army National Guard, whose 1st Battalion, 181st Infantry Regiment, has as its slogan, "Keep your powder dry." Also known historically as the 6th Massachusetts, the 1st Battalion, 181st Infantry, traces its roots all the way back to 1636, making it one of the oldest continuously serving combat regiments in the entire United States Army. Mark is married to Lyndon Gale Murphy. They have 2 children, 1 cat, and 3 desert tortoises. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a hearty welcome to Mark Seifert.
You have the clicker. Thank you, Derek. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dick. Thank you, everyone. It is indeed an honor to be here today in front of this esteemed group of veterans and families and patriots of the United States of America, especially during this 250th anniversary year of the Declaration of Independence. So, thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to start with a toast, even though we don't have adult beverages in front of us this morning. A coffee or a water will do. And the toast goes something like this. Here's to the taverns in the center of town, where the patriots gathered and brought the king down. Huzzah! We're going to talk a lot today about taverns and the role of taverns in the revolution and the build-up to the revolution. But to get your enthusiasm going, I'd like to start with a little huzzah. People didn't say ooh-ah back in 1776. They said huzzah. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a series of huzzahs. When I have my musket low, we'll be nice and quiet, huzzah, huzzah, and get louder and louder and louder until it gets so loud we're going to bring the roof down off this place. Everybody ready? Okay, here we go. Nice and low. Huzzah, 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 huzzah. Come on now, huzzah, huzzah, yeah, woo, huzzah, yeah, huzzah, yeah. As Dick said, I'm dressed as a colonial tavern keeper and militiaman, and therefore I served two roles and soldier. A role as a tavern keeper, serving the needs of the community, as well as a militia person. Okay, here we go. We got to get this thing started. Let's see, I can do this. I am technologically competent. Oop, wrong way. No, I'm not. We didn't have these things in 1776, so. Okay. What am I doing wrong here, Dick? Pardon me? Oh, yeah. Woo. Okay. So we're going to talk about the tavern trade. How many here have been to a tavern? Woo. Yeah, of course. Taverns were a little bit different back in the 1700s than they are today. And I want you to remember 3 net takeaways from this presentation. I'll tell you what the 3 are so you can get it out of the way, and then you can nod off during the rest of the presentation. But at least there are 3 net takeaways I want you to remember. The first is that the tavern was a fundamental cultural bedrock of the civilization during the 1700s. In fact, one might contend that the tavern was like the internet is today. They didn't have the internet, of course. They didn't have digital communications. How did people get their news? Where did they gather? They didn't gather on social media. They gathered within the tavern. So don't think of the tavern as just a place to have a beverage or to have a meal or to stay overnight. Think of the tavern as a fundamental communication device, communication place. The second thing to remember is that tavern patrons represented a diverse audience. How many of us think that the people in 1770s were a diverse makeup of people? How many believe that? Yeah, of course they were, right? Everybody knows that. There were people from all different religions, from all different walks of life, from yeomen to lawyers. And where did they all gather together? They gathered together in the tavern, and therefore this is one of the fundamental places where freedom across all areas of society got together and could share their political views and their thoughts. So those are 2 of the key takeaways. And then the last key takeaway is that the taverns were tinderboxes that ignited the revolution. The taverns were tinderboxes that ignited the revolution. And I'm going to prove this point for the rest of this presentation. Without the taverns, there wouldn't have been a revolution. Without the taverns, there wouldn't have been a Declaration of Independence. And indeed, taverns were the beginning of the Bill of Rights. Freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to bear arms. So all of those fundamental rights in the Bill of Rights were percolated in the tavern. And without those conversations, without those patriots gathering together, we wouldn't be in the country that we're in today. As Dick mentioned, I have tavern keepers in my ancestral background. I actually have both on the maternal side and the paternal side. I won't take the time today to talk about that, but if afterwards you want to learn anything more about it, I'd be happy to talk about it. We're going to really talk about mostly the things in the box today. We'll start with a little brief history of the colonial tavern, just to set the context. Then we'll talk about taverns as the center of colonial life, what that means, lighting the revolutionary tinderbox. I'm going to go through at least 10 small events, each one small on its own, but when taken together, they're really going to show a fundamental truth of this presentation. The fundamental truth goes like this. First, the British government and the king did something stupid. Right? And what was it that they kept doing? Taxes, bigger word, tyranny overall, taxes, what they told you you could do and you could not do, oppression. The king and parliament to the patriots and the taverns represented tyranny. What was the result of that tyranny in the taverns? We all know, what do people do in taverns? They drink. What's the second thing they do in taverns after they drink? Strong talk. What happens after strong talk? Strong action. I'm going to prove with these scenarios I'm going to talk about today that people, when they got to the tavern, the patriots, British action led to strong drink, strong talk, strong actions on the patriot side. That's really important that you remember that. Okay, brief history. We can look at this real quickly. All we got to tell you is that taverns were, by law, you had to have a tavern. They were legal entities going way back to the colonial times in the Mayflower. What does that mean? It means that the town said there were two buildings you had to have to be a town. The tavern and the church. Exactly. Here you are, side by side. Usually the tavern was right next door to the church. Think about it this way. Was the church air conditioned? No. Was the church heated? No. Did the church have comfortable seats? No. Did the church have nice food and drink? No. Did the church have someone yelling at you about sin and perdition and going to hell? Yes. Okay, so what did you do after 3 hours in church? You went to the tavern. It's, woo, glad that's over. Okay. So the Mayflower. You know, my grandmother was a very prim and proper New Englander, and she told me that the Pilgrims who came over in the Mayflower were so God-fearing and so teetotaling that they towed the line. They never did anything wrong. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's somewhat true, but maybe not. Can anybody guess one of the main reasons why the Mayflower stopped in Plymouth? They were supposed to go to Virginia, right? But they didn't. Where did they end up? Massachusetts, a little far north. It's November. Uh-oh. Why? Well, the funny thing is they were going to run out of beer. And the captain of the ship said, we don't have enough beer to get back to England for the crew. So you passengers, you got to get out now. That's a true story. And within William Bradford, who wrote about the history of the colony, he talks about the fact that they didn't have enough beer. Everyone on the Mayflower drank beer. This is important. Everybody drank, not just adult men, but women and children too. Why did everybody drink so much in those days? Fear of water, right? Water was bad. Water would make you sick. Water would kill you. Therefore, we can't drink water, so we have to drink something else. The colonists had a love-hate relationship with alcohol. On the love side, it was part of their fundamental diet, part of their nutrition. And I love this quote from Sam Adams, "Let no man thirst for good beer." I think they should put that on their packaging right now. They also, on the other hand, hated it. Look at Sam Adams' cousin, John Adams. What did he say? He said, woe to those people who drank too much, because otherwise, if they drank too much, they would fall into laziness. They wouldn't work hard. They would be bad for society. So this love-hate relationship. It's okay to drink, just don't get drunk. People drank 2 times as much alcohol then as they do today. Sometimes I think that we drink a lot in contemporary America, but not even close to what they drank in colonial America. So look at this. What did they drink? They drank a lot of beer, and they made a lot of beer. They drank hard cider. Everybody had apples. Apples were not indigenous, but people brought them over. They had lots of orchards, lots of apples. They made hard cider out of all different kinds of fruits. Rum, of course, was a big staple, very sweet. Madeira, wine, and they also made punches and cocktails. We think about craft cocktails today. You go to the bar and you want to order a craft cocktail with a certain type of bourbon or whatever. These people had cocktails that were amazing. Things like the Flip, the Rattle Skull. Can you imagine going to a bar? I'd like 2 Rattle Skulls, please. stone fence, snake bite. I mean, they had some amazing concoctions. They were so powerful. We had a party one night and we had some stone fence punch, big bowl of stone fence. Everybody had to take an Uber home because couldn't drive. It was crazy. Who ran taverns? Taverns were a wide range of tavern keepers. The first guy on the right over there is a guy named Buckman. He ran the Buckman Tavern in Lexington, Massachusetts, which is the site of the Battle of Lexington and Concord in April of 1775. The guy in the middle is a guy named Dudley. Dudley was actually a trained lawyer from Harvard, a very wealthy man, but he also ran a couple of taverns in Boston. And then on the far left of the screen, this is an image of a woman colonial tavern keeper. How many people think there were many women tavern owners in colonial America? Trick question. Yes? No? Yes? Okay. A few yeses, right? This is amazing. In colonial America, before the Revolution, women had many tavern licenses and owned and operated a lot of taverns. As you can see on the screen, in Charleston, South Carolina, more than half of the taverns in that city were owned and operated by women. If you look at Boston, it was 42%, and so on and so forth. What does this mean? Come on, think about this. We all know that the patriarchy is bad. We all know that, women were not supposed to do anything in those times, but that's not true. That's bad history. The history for real is that women not only had a major role to play within the family unit, but also within businesses like the tavern. Any guesses why there were so many women tavern owners in the colonies?
They were smarter.
Well, that's for sure, no question. Smarter, there's no question about that. Just ask my wife. Smarter, for sure. Any other? Men were in the fields and in the military, for sure. A lot of cases, the taverns were part of a farm that also could have included a grist mill, a lumber yard, different types of businesses. So women took that aspect of it within the buildings to run the tavern. What else? They could cook, for sure. So that was all part of that domestic responsibility. What else? Yeah. For sure. Also, a lot of women inherited the businesses. And so a father would pass on and leave the tavern to the daughter, or the husband would pass and leave the tavern to the daughter. But even if that's the case, wasn't it against the law in the colonies for a woman to own a business? Yes, it was. So how did it happen that if it was against the law, there were so many women tavern owners, even widows or people who inherited? It's because the licenses were given as a way to help the community by having women run the businesses, because they were better. They thought that it would help the men not get drunk as much as if the guys were running it. And also, they didn't want the widows with kids to go on the community dole and have to be paid for by get some financial relief from the town government. Anyway, so that's really a kind of a small, interesting thing. When you look at the letters and the journals of some of the patriot founding fathers, there's a lot in the journals about the taverns they went to that were owned and operated by women, and the influence of the women on their thinking. Okay, so taverns and colonial life. Real quickly, we all know that taverns were food and drink. I have this thing here. This is a prop. I'm not supposed to go off my center's piece here. Sorry, Dick, sorry. Okay, anybody ever seen one of these? You know, you have these in your fireplace, right? Like a fireplace tool. In colonial times, this was called a flip dog or a loggerhead. And every tavern had something like this, and you would heat the end of it up, and you would then go over to your tankard, which had rum and brandy and cider and molasses and an egg or whatnot in it, and you would put this hot poker into the drink, and then you would have your hot beverage. Why was it important to have an egg in a drink? How come you guys, everybody make drinks at home? You're going to put an egg in a drink and then put a poker in it? No. Why do you have an egg in a drink? Nutrition. We're calorie conscious right now, back in colonial times. Hey, if you can get a little nutrition from having a drink, why not? Common sense. Everybody's heard of Thomas Paine, Common Sense, which was very helpful in 1776 in terms of turning people who were sitting on the fence into patriots, turning some people who were in the Continental Army to re-up and stay in. We all know that George Washington had common sense read to the troops. Here's a quote from Common Sense. "But government, even at its best state, is but a necessary evil. In its worst state, an intolerable one." The general feeling from Common Sense in the taverns, this was read in the taverns, is that big government, tyranny, is not just bad, it's intolerable. If it's intolerable, what do we do about it? We change it. We have to do something about it. Yeah, please. Thank you. Okay, militia and muster day. I told you I'm not just a tavern keeper persona, but a militia person. Every man 16 years or older had to be part of the militia. It was law. It wasn't a draft. It wasn't a volunteer army. It was everybody 16 years or older had to be part of the militia. What, excuse me, what do you do each month in the militia? You go to Militia Day and you train. Where is Militia Day? At the tavern. Entertainment. Entertainment is crazy. Every kind of entertainment known to humankind was at colonial taverns. I'll say that again with emphasis. Every type of entertainment known to humans was in a colonial tavern. For sure, there was music. There was lots of dancing, not just formal dancing like the minuet, but what would be like contra country line dancing today. There were games of chance. There was cards, dominoes, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Okay, it was a business and commercial center. Of course, we all know, was there Wall Street? No. Could you call up your broker and do anything? No. Could you buy commodities on the exchange? No. Where did you do it? You did it all at the tavern. The taverns acted like the banks, the commodity exchange. People invested in businesses, divested in businesses. And it was also where court was held. And so that's where you would register your deeds and where you would sign official legal documents. This is an example, one last slide, on the amount of alcohol consumed by colonial Americans. This is 55 delegates in the City Tavern in Philadelphia. This is after the Constitution was signed. Get this, 55 delegates, 55 people. They consumed 54 bottles of Madeira, 60 bottles of claret, 8 of whiskey, 22 of porter, 8 of hard cider, 12 of beer, and 7 bowls of alcoholic punch. That's more than 2 bottles per person, plus a few shots and a few cups of punch added in. If I went to a celebration like that and had that amount of beverages, I don't know what would happen. Okay, let's move on. Okay, great. One more. Thank you. Okay, so the theme I talked about early on, strong drink, strong talk, strong action. This is what we're now going to show happened throughout the colonies. From the north to the south, everywhere, the pattern is the same. Because the pattern is the same, we can conclude clearly that this is a historical fact. It is a historical phenomenon that drove the revolution. As you can see from these little spots from the top to the bottom, and we'll go through a couple of these, this pattern happened everywhere. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple of these. This is in 1765. We all know what happened in 1765, right? The Stamp Act. Why did it happen in 1765? Little history, right? We all remember the French and Indian War. Britain won the French and Indian War. Britain had huge debt they had to pay off after the French and Indian War. They couldn't pay for that. They also had a standing army to upkeep. They also had the biggest navy in the world to upkeep. How are they going to get money to pay for the debt and their army and their navy? Guess who? Let's call on the Americans. They're rich. They've got lots of stuff going on. Let's tax them. So, of course, what happened? The result was the riots against the Stamp Act. I want to read this one quote. You can probably read it from your screens, but this is from Sam Adams. The Sons of Liberty on the 14th of August, 1765, a day which ought to be forever remembered in America, animated with a zeal for their country, then upon the brink of destruction, and resolved once to save her. Think of this. This is not just saying, oh, Stamp Act is bad, we've got to do something about it. I ask you to ponder, to think about the emotion behind these words and the emotion that then went from one person to another person to galvanize them into action to do something about it. Just think about it. Animated with a zeal for their country being America, not Britain, on the brink of destruction. Holy mackerel. These are fighting words, right? Anybody feel that I get goosebumps sometimes when I hear these words? I mean, these are amazing, right? Can you imagine in 1765 saying, something's got to change, something's wrong, something's bad's happening, and we got to make something change? Oh, can you go back one? Sorry. Okay. So the Sons of Liberty are then going to defy the Stamp Act. This is another example in New York City. So we go from Boston, we go New York City, next one. This next one is in Charleston, South Carolina. Again, just think about it. We're not just complaining now, but we're taking our complaints and we're going out onto the streets and we are going to do a four-letter word that nobody likes to hear. R-I-O-T. We're going to riot. We're going to cause civil disturbance. We're going to shake the foundations of the British tyranny. Next one. This is Peck's Tavern in Connecticut. Same idea. Get together. Taxes are bad. Let's revolt. Next one. Bully Boys. Before the Sons of Liberty were called the Sons of Liberty, guess what they were called? The Bully Boys. Can you imagine that? We think of the Sons of Liberty as great speakers. They really want to do what's right. They're committed. They're bullies, the Bully Boys, because what would they do? They'd go out in the street and they'd beat people over the head if they weren't doing what they wanted them to do. Fortunately, I think the Sons of the Revolution, Sons of Liberty, sounds a little better than Bully Boys. Okay, I want to take you through this story. How many people have heard of Jimmy Otis? Jimmy Otis, not the guy that invented elevators, but Jimmy Otis, lawyer, Bostonian, great fire-breathing patriot. And Jimmy Otis and a couple of his patriot buddies are in a coffee house in Boston called the British Coffee House. This is as reported by many people like Sam Adams. So this is a true story. Come on, think about this. I think of our patriot founding fathers when I was a kid as very serious men and very serious women, writing very serious words about very serious topics, that they must have been so boring and serious. But here we see in real life what happens in a tavern in Boston. And you know what? They're just like us. They're just like us. Same people, same type of friends, same type of behavior in a tavern, having a good time. They're just like us, and we're just like them. So here's what happened. This is in this tavern in 1769, a historical documented fact. Otis would tell off-color jokes about old Horn, a horny old lawyer. Oh, come on. A patriot founding father, Jimmy Otis, telling dirty jokes? Are you kidding? Come on, does that sound right to you? How many ever thought founding fathers were telling dirty jokes? Yeah, they're telling dirty jokes. Here's Jimmy Otis, right? Well, so John Adams is reporting that Jimmy Otis is carrying on in the tavern, having a lot of fun telling jokes. Who's in the tavern? Remember, taverns were places where everybody gathered, all walks of life. Well, there's patriots in there. There's also British officers there from the British Army, right? So Jimmy Otis, in the middle of telling jokes, he says, "The king's men are thieves and villains." Whoa, fighting words. Can you imagine that? Okay, you're in your tavern, you're in your bar, you're having a good time, you're looking over at the other guys and you go, "You guys are thieves and villains." Uh-oh, something's going to react, right? Next slide, please. Okay, so what is the action that happens? There's a bloody brawl, and tables are turned over, candles are blown out. It's a drunken brawl in the dark, fists, canes, cutlasses, and swords. Can you just imagine the cacophony of noise and yelling and screaming and swords clashing and canes beating on tables? And Otis got the worst of it. As Dr. Joseph Warren reported, he had a sword thrust that penetrated his skull. And Jimmy Otis was never the same after that. Here's a quote about him a couple of months later. "Otis got into a mad freak tonight and broke a great many windows in the State House. He's at it again." Afterwards, Jimmy Otis went to live on a farm a couple miles outside of Boston and never took part in politics again, sort of after this because of his head wound. Okay, so come on, everybody get this? Founding fathers, having a good time, telling jokes, lots of action. New York City, Liberty Pole. Everybody knows about Liberty Poles, Liberty trees, flags. Liberty Poles were what? Today, we would call that a brand icon. We would call it something that people like the Nike swoosh. We all know the Nike swoosh, right? What was a Liberty Pole? Same thing. It was an icon for revolution. Next slide. This is one of my favorites. I bet nobody has ever heard of this in this room. I might lose a bet, but how many have heard of the Pine Tree Riots from Ware, New Hampshire? Pine Tree Riots from Ware, New Hampshire. Oh, come on, okay. Yeah, all right. Woo! All right, couple of guys in the back. Why were there riots over a pine tree? Well, here's the story. So we all know that Britain had this great navy, and the navy ships were made of wood, and the masts and the spars were made of pine trees. So what would happen is New Hampshire, Connecticut, other places in the Northeast had these marvelous tall pine forests. And the king's men would go out and they would brand a tree to say, "This is the king's property." It didn't matter who owned the land, who owned the tree. The British government said they need it for a mast or a spar or to build a ship. So they would go around and they would say, "You can't cut that down. You can't saw it up. You can't sell it for lumber. It's the king's. It's the king's tree." Well, a bunch of patriots in Massachusetts said, "No, that's crazy. You can't just take my pine trees. They're my trees." So they got together at a place called Quimby's Tavern in Ware, New Hampshire, and they literally beat the snot out of the king's men who were identifying the king's trees. They eventually got arrested, and the fines they got were very, very small because most of the people in the jury and the court were on their side, not the king's side. But this is in 1772. After this, I'm trying to put some history together. You with me still? Am I losing you yet? Okay. So we're trying to put some history. Stamp Act, you can't tax us. Pine Tree Riot, you can't take my property. It's my property. I don't care whether you need it. It's my property. You can't take it. Basic property rights. Led to, in all these cases, violence where the patriots went out and burned down houses, took furniture out of houses, burned them in the town square, and in this case, beat up the king's representatives in Beast Tavern. Next slide. This is now in, and by the way, 1772 is before 1775, and we all know what happened in 1775, which was the Boston Tea Party. So these events are the precursor to the Boston Tea Party. Anybody ever heard of the Gaspee? Right? Okay, the British Navy had authorization from the Crown to seize any American shipping they wanted. Well, what are you talking about? You can't seize my ship. It's my ship. I'm a licensed ship captain out of Falmouth, Massachusetts. You can't seize my cargo. You can't stop and search me for no reason. Well, this guy, the Gaspee, was one of those ships that was stopping American ships. The Patriots got together in Sabin's Tavern in Providence, Massachusetts, and what did they decide to do? Burn down the Gaspee. So they rowed out in their boats, they took over the ship, they burned down the ship. Next slide. Boston Tea Party, we all know about that. Next one, Annapolis. This is another burning down of a merchant ship called the Peggy Stewart. Think of taverns, strong drink, strong talk, strong action. Let's burn down a ship. Let's throw tea overboard. Let's beat up the king's representative who wants to take over our pine trees. Let's have a riot in New York City. Let's have a riot in Charleston, South Carolina. Strong drink, strong talk, strong action. Next one. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this for time reasons. I hope you can read it on the screen. We all know John Adams was a traveling lawyer. He would go around the colonies and he would hold court and defend people or prosecute people. And this is a trip he has in Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, which is about 40 miles from Boston. He's traveled from Boston, he's staying overnight, and he doesn't think people will recognize him, so he wants to listen to the conversation in the tavern. Next slide. The first guy says, the people of Boston are distracted. Oh, what does that mean? They're distracted. Distracted means they're angry. The next guy says, no wonder the people of Boston are distracted. Oppression will make men mad. Oppression will make men mad. Do you get the theme of my talk? Tyranny, oppression, intolerable. Something has to change. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so what we're dealing with then is the fundamental crisis of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And that is simply this. Who has the power? Who has the power? Is it the people? Because we have, as per the Declaration of Independence, natural, unalienable rights, liberty, property, representation. As Benjamin Rush said, freedom is not a gift bestowed upon us by other men, but a right that belongs to us by the laws of God and nature. We as a people, as an individual, have fundamental rights granted by nature and not by government. On the other side is power. The founding fathers were petrified of the power of government. Listen to the quotes about what they thought about power. We've all heard this. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's a cliche. Here's some quotes from our founding fathers. Power is jaws always open to devour, restless, aspiring, insatiable. Like a cancer, it eats faster and faster every hour. Too intoxicating and liable for abuse. Our degenerate times and corrupt nation. Oh my heavens. Our degenerate times and corrupt nation. The scale is people versus power. In the taverns, the people talked about people's rights. Can we gather together and talk about what we need to talk about? Do we have freedom of speech? Can we publish pamphlets like Common Sense and read them out loud? Can we take our grievances to the street? Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. This is just a slide from the Buckman Tavern. Anybody ever been to Lexington and Concord? Buckman Tavern is still there. That's where the Patriots gathered the night of April 18th, 1775, before Paul Revere's ride to the Buckman Tavern. What did Paul Revere say? Did he say, the British are coming, the British are coming, the British are coming? No, because at that point in time, everybody was British because they existed in the British colonies. So what he did say was the Redcoats are coming, the Redcoats are coming, to show it was the army. Next one. Word spread fast. These are publications that happened right after the Lexington and Concord. Newspapers, they weren't have big circulation, but they had enough that they'd go around from tavern to tavern. Then people would read them out loud. The one from New Hampshire says, what's the headline? Bloody news. That's a headline. That'll grab you. That'll get clicks, right? That's like clickbait today. In the Massachusetts Spy, which is written by a very famous patriot, Isaiah Thomas, British troops, unmolested and unprovoked, wantonly and in a most inhuman manner, fired upon and killed a number of our countrymen. The propaganda through the newspapers, the taverns, was the British are beasts and oppressors, and we're a free people. We have to revolt. Next slide. This one is Tondi's Tavern, which is in Savannah, Georgia. Again, another riot. Next one. Do I have enough substantiation here? Come on, look at this. All over the colonies, you have a tavern, people get angry, then people burn down a building or beat up a king's. Just think about, I urge you to think about the emotions. We live in a digital age. We read all of our news feeds. We see everything quickly. Does the communication today have the emotion behind it that some of these had? Thieves and villains, oppression will make men mad. Grievous, oppressive, unconstitution. If they want war, let it begin here. These are strong, strong words. Let's move on. Declaration of Independence was also read in the taverns and throughout the colonies. Who knows who printed the first Declaration of Independence? Small fact. No, he was in the convention, but it was printed by a printer named John Dunlap in Philadelphia. So that's called the Dunlap broadside. And you'll notice in the picture, it's before everyone had a chance to sign it. That's how fresh it was. And we now know that the Declaration of Independence has all the signatures. Okay, who was the first woman to sign the Declaration of Independence? Mary Catherine Goddard was a printer, and she made the second official printing of the Declaration of Independence. And she was an official printer of the Continental Congress, and she printed it in January of 1777. It's amazing that the second printing done by a woman printer and bookseller, think about it, women tavern owners, women printers and booksellers. This is an amazing fact. Let's move on. Okay, keeping the flame alive. The revolution happens. Yeah, the taverns resulted in, we're going to bring the government down. We're going to be independent. Let's move on. Next slide. So how did the taverns play a role once the war started? Well, the first is recruiting. How many Marines here in the room? Marines? Yeah, everybody heard of the Tun Tavern outside of Philadelphia, founding place of the Marines, and sure, one of the great recruiting places throughout the war. Next slide. City Tavern in Philadelphia was where all of the founding fathers gathered for after meeting food and beverages in Philadelphia. Next one. Keeler Tavern. That was a tavern in Connecticut. What are they doing? They're making musket balls. So they're supporting the war by taking metal, turning it into musket balls, and they were then attacked by the British. Next one. Okay, we talked about this with some people before the presentation. How many people saw Turn, the TV show Turn? Right? Everybody love it? The Culpeper spy ring and Seatucket, Long Island and everything. Well, this is the real tavern, and there's the real guy. So it's called the Row Tavern, and he was really the tavern keeper, and he was really the fundamental linchpin in that. Okay, I want to now make 2 more slides real quickly, and then we'll sum up. The next 2 slides are happening after the Revolution, 1787. This slide is about Shays' Rebellion. How many people have heard Shays' Rebellion? Okay, veterans in Western Massachusetts are now getting taxed, and the government, our government, wants to put whiskey taxes on, and Shays' Rebellion goes, wait a minute, this isn't what we fought for. This isn't what we wanted when we signed up and spent, 4, 6, 8 years in the military. This is wrong. So there was Shays' Rebellion. The rebellion was put down by the army, and a bunch of veterans were actually killed. Next slide. This slide is really interesting. There was a guy named William Manning who was from Billerica, Massachusetts. He was a militiaman. On April 19th, 1775, he picked up his musket, joined together with his militia company, and went to fight for the Revolution and the Declaration of Independence as a militiaman. His family had a tavern after his service was up. He came back and he ran his tavern. But in 1789, there was a huge argument about the future of the United States government. This is great history, right? Trying to encapsulate a lot of history, so just bear with me a few more minutes. There's the Federalists who want a big federal government. There's the, Alexander Hamilton. Then there's the anti-Federalists who want a more smaller government, who want states' rights and a more agrarian economy, and that's like Thomas Jefferson. So there are these 2 factions that are arguing and debating, and the Federalist Papers are all about that debate. Who's going to win? Manning wrote a book called The Key to Liberty in 1789. He wrote it by hand. It was discovered a hundred years later by his couple generations later. Here's one of the things he wrote in that document. Gog and Magog are gathered together to destroy the rights of man and banish liberty from the world. Whoa! Whoa! Veteran, honorable service. By the way, Daniel Shays was a decorated captain in the Continental Army. Before that, William Manning, good militia soldier for a couple of years in the Revolution. Both of them saying, what's going on here? Gog and Magog are gathered together. Okay, this was a head scratcher to me. Who's Gog and Magog? Any biblical scholars here? Okay, we've got one in the back. I can't hear you. Anyway, so Gog and Magog are mythical warriors of Satan. Mythical warriors of Satan. It's in Ecclesiastes. It's in, a couple of books. So, tavern talk before the Revolution is about people versus power. After the Revolution, Shays' Rebellion, and this guy, William Manning, is about, have we lost it? Have we lost the fundamental difference between a government of the people, by the people, and for the people? Or are we going to become a powerful centralized government just like we tried to revolt against? Next slide. Then we have, in 1789, George Washington, and guess what? He is the first rock star. He is the first world-class celebrity, not just because of what he did in the Revolution, because what he did as President of the United States. what's one of the first things he did? Up there on the screen, he went on a road trip. He actually said to himself, you know what? There's the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists. There's all this dissent among the veterans. What are we going to do? He went on a road trip, town by town, to visit every state and to try to pull the people together. Every town made speeches, met with the people. Where did George Washington stay during this first presidential road trip? In the taverns, yes. Did he stay with the aristocrat, rich, hoi polloi? No, he did not. He stayed at the taverns. Why? Because he wanted to make that connection between the government, him as president, and the people. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so strong drink, strong talk, strong action. What does that lead to? The building blocks of the Bill of Rights. Freedom of assembly, tavern talk, freedom of speech, spreading the news, which is the free press, and the right to bear arms. Next slide. So the tavern flipped the center of gravity from top down, we're the British government, you do what I say, to bottom up, we're the people. Next slide. So the people are sovereign, and we loan our power to the government for the common good. Come on, isn't that amazing? We're sovereign, and we loan our power to the government for the common good. In that regard, the federal government, as defined by the Constitution, was strictly Republican. And by the way, that's a small r, not a capital R. That's not a political party. That's a philosophy of government, right? Strictly Republican, meaning people loan their power to the government. So, what do you take away from it today? Taverns were the center of culture, the center of the town, the center of freedom and speech, and it's where everything happened to get the revolution rocking and rolling, to keep the revolution alive during the war, and also to help the country come together after the revolution to build the country that we have today. So I would like to say thank you to all of our patriots who went before, who served our country, not just in the revolution, but in every conflict from then until now. And I also want to thank you for being a great and attentive audience. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
You know, I've spent. Is that me?
That's the one I've got.
I've spent a lot of time in bars and lounges and pubs and taverns, but I spent most of my adult youth in honky tonks, which is what we call them in Southeast Texas. I want to take this opportunity to present you with this certificate of appreciation and welcome you to the Order of the R.E.D. And this specifically states that we hereby laud and commend Mark Seifert for his honorable community service, championing of veteran support initiatives, and support of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One more. Thank you.
Also, Mark, I would like to take this opportunity to present you with this Red Friday lapel pin.
Thank you so much.
And hopefully, as you meander about throughout the valley and run into folks that may ask you what this pin is all about, you can promote what this East Valley Red Friday Patriots program really means.
Thank you.
Additionally, we have this America 250 medallion lapel pin that we would like to present to you as well. I'm not going to pin these on that beautiful costume of yours, but I hope that you will wear this on your civilian clothes. Thank you. Thank you. You're a true patriot, and we appreciate very much so your preparation. I do have a few announcements that I would like to make. First of all, Nancy Fassbender, we've sent out a variety of communications relevant to the Christmas in July auction that is currently underway. There's a host of items on this particular auction site that I think you'll find would make some outstanding gifts, whether it be for a birthday, for a Christmas gift, Thanksgiving gift, wedding anniversary gift, you name it. But I would encourage that you go on that website. I will be sending out the link again in my summary that goes out following this meeting via email. Get online, really simple, make a bid, or actually do a buy now purchase on some of these items. That money will be directed to the Reach Across America program, and a portion of that fund goes directly to also support the Arizona Veterans Honor Tour, which Nancy is now managing. Additionally, I want to highlight that we have guest speakers for the next 8 weeks. I encourage you to come out and join us for those particular programs and support our guest speakers. That said, I would like to make the announcement that we have a lady by the name of Diana Mull Halstead, who's scheduled as our speaker for August 14th. Diana is a military historian and author of 2 books, one titled Writings and Interpretations from the Barbed Wire Hotel. And it's the story captured from the diary of Diane's father, who logged his daily experiences as a POW during World War II, German POW. It's an absolutely fascinating read. Diana will be flying in from out of state at her own expense to address our group on August 14th. And she can either bring copies of her book if you wish to purchase directly from her, and she will be taking orders today and next Friday are the only 2 Fridays we can take an order for her books, so that she'll know how many books that she needs to bring here. If you wish to purchase one of her books, it's $25. You can present those funds to Nancy after we dismiss, and we'll be happy to ensure that you get that book when Diana arrives. Or you can go on to Amazon and you can purchase it direct on Amazon for the same price. Again, I will be in my follow-up announcement today to you. I will have the name of that book that you can access through Amazon. Also want to highlight that if any of you veterans have never signed up, registered to go on the honor flight, I really encourage you to do so. The overwhelming majority of our World War II vets, and by far most of our Korean War veterans, have already been honored through this flight. So we're now into the Vietnam era of veterans. If you've not taken this honor flight, I really encourage you to do so. And if you're interested in registering for it, I've got some contact information here where you can go online and get that registration underway. One other thing, I would like for Bev Scheit to come up here, please. Bev, if you've noticed, has been pretty stationary back there at that greeting desk as you're coming in each morning. Additionally, on all of the special programs we've had where we've had the necessity to do table decorations, et cetera, Bev has been one of the first on site to assist. So since coming on board with this East Valley Red Friday program, she has really made a significant contribution to this group. And I want to honor you with pinning you with this Red Friday lapel pin today.
Oh my gosh, I've been wanting this for so long.
Well, you know what? You got it.
Turn around.
Oh, goodness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To our first-time guests, thank you for joining us today. We sincerely hope that you'll return to share in our camaraderie and in the support of our mission. Please know that you will always be welcome at our Red Friday assemblies. And as a final reminder, let's not overlook the importance of this Red Friday mission to keep our warfighters in our thoughts and prayers and to continue to demonstrate our support for these fine men and women. And please keep in mind that it is patriotism that unites us. Enjoy your weekend.